welcome to the RV Business Dealer Roundtable, something that we've kind of thrown together. As you can see by the Zoom screen, we have people in different corners of America, some seated in a motorhome, Mike Regan driving in his car, and what the heck? We're here to have a conversation on the state of the market. And welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So who is with us? We will go with, we got Ron Shepard, and I'm going to read this so I don't screw it up. Camperland of Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma. John Ferrando, RV Retailer, LLC, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Debbie Brutaforte, Little Dealer, Little Prices, Phoenix, Arizona. Jeff Hirsch, Campers Inn RV, Jacksonville, Florida. And Mike Regan, Crestview RV, Buda, Texas. 4 former chairmen of RVDA. And of course, we're doing this, we're putting this together for the virtual RVDA Con Expo, which starts shortly. And we're not here to talk about the presidential elections. So, you know, we'll just move right into it. You know, the state of the market is something that we've all mulled over, maybe constantly. The state of our respective businesses, and you know, we never been here before. None of us have ever been here before. So my question to you is, you know, what is the state of the market from your perspective? Where are we at? What do you see moving well into the fourth quarter of 2020? Any of you?
Happy to start, Sherm. John Ferrando. The market's tremendous. So it's obviously post-COVID in May, consumer demand just took off, and we've had great sales, great industry environment all the way through the summer. And for us, we've seen that continuing into we had a spectacular September. We had a great October. November is starting out very strong. We're seeing a surge in new customers coming into the market. So we're seeing across basically the customer base is widening dramatically. So we're seeing, I've seen older customers, 75 years old the other day in the showroom that used to RV 15 years ago, and now they're getting back in again because they can't go on a cruise ship. And we're seeing a tremendous number of younger customers, millennials and Gen Xers, jumping into our showrooms as first-time buyers, which creates its own set of new challenges for us in the industry. And also those buyers are, in many cases, looking at smaller products, so single axle towable, smaller travel trailers, some of the products that we're having a little bit harder time getting out of the OEMs. But a very widening customer base, and a customer base full of new RVers that haven't RV'd before.
Debbie, you always got an opinion.
Yeah, thank you, sure. You know, it's very interesting because oftentimes with these world events, a large ticket discretionary purchase, such as an RV, it's negative for our industry. This one, interestingly enough, as everyone knows, has been very positive for our industry. So one of the things I say around here is ride the wave. You know, business is good, the pandemic is bad, at least we have a positive benefit because of that. I guess one of the questions, though, is how long will it last and what will it look like on the other side? In the meantime, everyone knows that business is good, inventory is low, there's disruptions in the supply chain, and so that's not really news. However, our industry has always impressed me, and I feel that the people in the RV industry are particularly good at adapting and responding to market situations. So I do not anticipate the supply shortages to be prolonged. Thank you, Chair.
Gentlemen?
I'll jump in. Nobody's talking, so I'll jump in, Sherm. I can echo what both of those folks have said. In Oklahoma, we're experiencing all the same things, same products that are selling, the same shortages that they're experiencing. I would say the part that's most concerning to me is the supply chain. That piece of it has got to get fixed, and it's got to get fixed pretty quick, because with the increase in business that we've all experienced, and I don't want this to be negative, because it's just a reality. When the manufacturers are pushed to get more product out, they're going to cut some corners, which is going to cut quality, and dealers are also going to cut corners to get things delivered quicker. And when we do that, that means there's going to be repairs after the sale. And it's the after the sale part that concerns me. The supplies have got to be available. We've got to be able to get these folks fixed, get them fixed quick, and get them back out on the road so they don't get a negative taste about our industry, or all of these newbies that we've got are going to be short-lived. And that's the part that concerns me the most. As far as how long it's going to run, I would certainly say that it's going to last another year. COVID is not going to go away overnight. We just happened to, at our dealership, one of the people in the back office came down positive yesterday, which now means quarantining anybody that was around her, is what the doctors are saying. So that's a handful of people, including myself. And so we'll be working from home for a while. And fortunately, she didn't contaminate the whole dealership, and her symptoms are extremely mild. But COVID's here to stay, and I appreciate what our current president, that may be our past president, that may be the future president, we really don't know. We're not going to get political, you said. We've got to learn to live with this, because it's here, and we've got to deal with it. And I think that's where we're at. With that, I know that there's been increases in cases in northern Indiana, and so that's disrupted things on the manufacturer side. But back to the supply chain, that is a critical piece that has got to get fixed, and get fixed pretty quick, so that we can get these folks fixed and back on the road when their rig breaks down, because it's not going to be if it breaks down, it's going to be when it breaks down.
Jeff?
Okay, well, thank you, Sherm. Thank you for having us on today. Again, I echo what everyone has said before me. And, I agree with Deb that our customer base is extremely resilient. Our manufacturers are resilient. Our dealerships are resilient, all right? And we've done a really good job, I think, adjusting to, the demand that, John and Ron had gone ahead and alluded to. The unintended consequences of this rise in RV popularity does have me concerned, all right? So when you think about us going into 2021, we all have budgets, right? And we're trying to go ahead and manage the available income to what our expense structure is going to look like. And if we do have inventory shortages, then that's going to go ahead and put a lot of stress on the organizations, because obviously we have people that we have to feed, and we have, bills that we have to pay. So inventory is a concern, because I think that the overall popularity of the lifestyle, because of the characteristics of being, social distancing, all right, it's going to be another very good year if we have the product. So I'm really optimistic, with a concern that there may be some interruptions along the way. The other thing that, when we try to go ahead and think about the future, is we look at transaction time, right? So the time in which we get essentially a sale accomplished has changed dramatically. The technology that we're utilizing in dealerships today has gone ahead and advanced the time that, the consumer needs in order to go ahead and purchase a recreational vehicle. We're doing credit apps over the phone or over the internet. We're doing sales agreements. We're doing warrant. Everything's being done today without necessarily having to go to the dealership. So what does that look like in the future? So those are things that are changing for us. Even some of our employees today, they're not asked to go ahead and come to the office. They're actually working from home, especially on the corporate side. So the need for office space is going to go ahead and reduce as a result of this. So, you know, we're trying to be very adaptive, all right? The industry's great, and we just want to make sure that we're able to go ahead and navigate through this. But it's exciting times for the RV industry.
You were supposed to tell us that the pandemic was in its home stretch, about to be cured and go away, but you didn't tell us that.
I'm not running for president.
No, don't you start. But
How about Mike?
Go ahead, Rick.
No, I'm just going to make sure Mike gets a chance to talk.
You know, by going last, I kind of agree with what everybody has said. If we don't sell another unit for the next 60 or 90 days, we're still going to have the great 3 or 4 months worth of sales. There is such a backlog of units that we've taken orders on, and I don't think anybody's really touched on that. So we know the supply chain is slow. We know that dealer inventory, according to Barron's survey, is less than 30 days. I think we would all agree that we have inventory that's less than 30 days, new and used. But at the same time, we have a 2 or 3 month supply of customers that have already raised their hands and left a deposit, and we can't fulfill those orders. So I suspect that I agree with what everybody has said. It's going to take a year to fill the pipeline, even if they fix the supply chain. And I think until there's a vaccine, the supply chain is going to be suspect. I think Ron mentioned it. There seems to be an outbreak in Indiana right now, and I'm hearing that a lot of management are working from home, and I don't know if all the plants are open, and that certainly applies to the supplier side too. So I think we're still for a rough 120 days on the supply chain. And then, you know, next spring, as soon as the supply chain gets fixed, hopefully we'll have the springtime sales, and it will continue from there.
Mike, you say 30 days inventory on the shelf. What would it be in any other more regular year?
Anytime I would think that dealers have somewhere between a 120 to 180 day supply of inventory. And when I say less than 30, I think in most cases it's probably 2 weeks supply of inventory. I think we're down to a 14-day supply of inventory.
Anybody else care to comment to that?
I think you need to quantify that because, you know, we have what I would say spot shortages. There are some categories that the inventory is okay on, but when you look at family campers and smaller single axle, smaller tandem axle, you know, there is no supply out there. So I just think it depends upon the category that we're talking about.
I agree with that, but I would also say that extends probably worse in the motorhomes. I placed a couple orders for motorhomes, and I was told that it would be next June or July before they were built, and these were retail sold units.
Ron?
Well, I agree with that. It's the category. I agree with what Jeff said. We're the same way. It's not that we have a little over a 30-day supply of fifth wheels, but of travel trailers, we may have a 10-day supply. So when you average it all out, there's about a 30-day supply of inventory, but it's not all the right inventory. And so that's the piece that's missing in all the conversation. How many units could we have sold? Oh, Lord have mercy. I don't know. It was when it was really hopping, it was really hopping, you know, and we missed a bunch of that because we all ran out of inventory. And are those people all going to come back? We all pray to the good Lord above they do. But we'll know that here in a few months. Now in Florida, John and Jeff they're going to stay busy. And Michael stayed, and Debbie. I'm the only oddball here. Debbie's going to be busy in Arizona. You're going to be busy in Texas and Florida, Oklahoma, we do slow down this time of year, but our sales are still over 30% ahead of 19. So it's not that it has stopped, it's just slowed down. And part of it is we don't have the right inventory for the customers when they come in. And we have it if they want a fifth wheel, we're okay. And motorhomes are, for us, are non-existent. John, I'll go ahead and say this because we're on this call together. One of our manufacturers that you also have several stores that carry that product, and I guess I'm not supposed to name names. That's probably a bad thing to do with a group of dealers. But I said, I know you're probably giving it to RV retailers. I understand it. And they looked up while they were online with me because I had trailer or motorhomes that were supposed to be here in July that I still didn't have. And they said they happen to have 5 at all of their stores combined. So I accused you falsely, John, and you know, confession's good for the soul. So I'm confessing here that I mentioned you in a conversation. But no, I think the supply of the right units is what's difficult, and they've got to make sure that we have those come springtime, or we are going to miss an opportunity. And I don't think it's going to go away. I think Mike's right. He finally convinced me. It took him a while, but he finally convinced me that it's going to take till next fall before our inventories are at somewhat of a normal level. But I do agree with that 120 to 180 days, depending on the product type. That's what most of us keep in stock.
John, Debbie?
Yeah. Hey, yeah, Ron. So we're, you know, it's interesting. I'll go back to this summer. We had a store that sold 77 in July, new. They started the month with 10 and they ended the month with 10. So pretty extraordinary. I would say the inventory for us has gotten a little bit better over the last couple months, but we're still very limited and, you know, working off a lot of retail sold orders. Tough to get motorhomes. Also, somebody mentioned a smaller product. The OEMs have no interest in building that because they can build the higher margin big stuff. So that's a challenge, and I think it's in some regards it's a little short-sighted with a lot of the new customers coming into the industry. So we're really pushing to get more of that product. But I see the supply constraints in place probably well into next year, maybe even into the third or fourth quarter. I just think the consumer demand for RVs is going to remain strong right now. I see no reason why it won't continue. The pandemic it's going to be with us until into the first, second quarter before there's a widespread vaccine. I think people are still going to be looking to take advantage of the outdoor recreation lifestyle at a high level all the way through next year. So whatever production we can get out of Indiana, we're going to sell, and I think it's going to take them quite a while to catch up. In all the conversations I have, it seemed like this summer everybody thought, hey, we can get there by the end of the year. We'll get through the supplier issues, and if anything, it's only just getting worse. So there's the the level of outbreaks in the plants, and every time I talk to the manufacturers, they're doing the work for the whole industry, fighting to figure those issues out, battling every day. But based on my conversations, this is going to be a long time before the manufacturers catch up, a long time. So we're going to continue with the same, I think the same environment that we've had is going to continue well into next year, which is challenging, but not necessarily a bad thing from a retail standpoint.
Debbie, I owe you a shot, and then need to let Ricky ask a question or two here.
Okay, I agree with what everyone has said so far, and it might be a good time to share with you one of my favorite quotes, and that is, "It is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor is it the most intelligent. It is the most adaptable of the species that survive." And most events are either what I call IMC, in my control, or BMC, beyond my control. And often we allow ourselves to get stressed over items that are beyond our control. It could be small items like weather or traffic, big items such as the pandemic and the election. Either way, if it's beyond my control, if it's a BMC item, I think the best response is to adapt. And the goal becomes to adapt as correctly and quickly as possible. So yes, am I facing all of the same challenges as everyone else? Yes, certainly. We try not to stress on that too much. We try to focus on what do we do about it? How do we adapt to the realities of the situation?
Rick?
The supply chain and the inventory is the dominant factors right now for sure, right?
Absolutely.
How does that going to play out maybe next year's consumer show season, spring season?
But that's assuming there will be one.
Good point.
Yeah. Right.
Well,
You know, I'll jump in there. We moved our show from February to March because we did not think we could supply the show with inventory. We had canceled an outdoor show in September of this year just because we did not have the inventory. We could have done the show, but because it was outside, but there was no way to supply the inventory. We had, a week's supply of inventory. It's gotten better, but that is a major concern, Rick. What will the supply chain look like for us if we go into February or March and we have a vaccine and we are allowed to do RV shows? Will we have a 2 or 3 week supply of inventory and we really don't have anything to show at the shows? That is a valid concern.
I would insert a question here. One of the most amazing takeaways to me is the fact that from listening to all of you, this surge of existing and new buyers continues. I mean, it wasn't just a 2-month, 8-week burst. It's still going, right?
Correct.
Yeah, it's still going, Sherm. And to comment on the show discussion, our experience this year, we relied a lot on shows, and with the consumer demand where it is and the limited inventory, there's not really a need right now to do shows, and the consumer's getting a lot more digital. And to Jeff's point, the consumers are also looking to have a easier, quicker shopping experience, which is what we're executing on to give them when they do come into our stores.
Is this or what you just said there, is that a business practice born of the pandemic that's going to continue?
From my perspective, absolutely. So customers are shopping more online. It was already moving that way. I think it's accelerating, and particularly with some of the newer, younger buyers coming in, they're more digital to begin with, and then they also want a more hassle-free experience. And there's a lot of customers, particularly probably the further back you go, right after the hit in March, April, when we were in the middle of the pandemic, people were, they wanted a touchless experience. So we were doing, more home delivery, but when people came in, it was a, quicker, more hassle-free, touchless experience. So a few different factors leading into that, but we're working on that. And, one of the challenges on the flip side is we have all these brand new customers coming in. Some are very green. I mean, they haven't even thought about RVing. Usually even our new buyers have some experience with it, friends with it. They come in, they know what they're doing. Now you have people that have never thought of it. They don't even know they need a hitch, and we got to really, really slow down with the salespeople. And then with stores closing, we had a lot of furloughs and cutbacks on staff. We've had to really reinvest to make sure we give a great new product orientation and demonstrator so that these new customers know how to use it and they don't have a horrible experience. So it's really, there's just a lot of I'd be interested to hear what the rest of the panel has to say, but just a lot of interesting dynamics within the showroom and the store and with customers that have come out of the pandemic.
Anybody care to kick in there?
I'll be happy to, since nobody's speaking up. I think the dynamics have definitely changed in the way that the customer shops. They were already doing that. They were all moving digital, and we were all moving digital. But we still have the brick and mortar store, obviously. And I think the pandemic has sped up the process to where so many people are shopping online, even more so than they were, to where they know when they come in what they want. But then you have a lot of the newbies that are buying because of their friends, and they really don't have a clue. And we had that situation where they'll come in and they want to see everything on the lot because they have no idea what they want. Their friends have one, so they want one all of a sudden. So there's a little bit of that dynamic. You definitely have to slow down the demonstration portion of it, because they don't all listen. And the phone calls coming back in after they leave because they swear you didn't show them how to use something, and it's just that they don't remember. That's another dynamic. So the service desk is busy taking phone calls and service and salespeople with the customer that they just sold to try and help walk them through something while they're on their first camp out. So it is a dynamic, and then we have to also take care of those customers. I'll go back to what I said again. We rush through some of the PDIs, the manufacturer rushed through some of the fit and finish, and we have a little bit of that we have to take care of for the customer after the unit's gone. And we have to do it quicker than we've ever done it before. That's another dynamic that is very difficult, because you're just slammed with business, and yet you've got to take care of those people. They're not going to accept that it's going to be 3-4 weeks before I can get to you.
Rick, we're on the home stretch here on the clock. Any question you care to insert here before I
go ahead?
I'll conclude with a question. Retaining this wave, as we all know, I mean, we've all read it. Retaining this wave of new buyers is the number one mission of the industry from here. What can you say about that, and how the industry goes about keeping them pleased? That'll be our last question.
Well, Sherm, I'll jump in. I'm so glad that you asked that question, because that is my greatest concern. That's my greatest fear, is how are we going to take care of these people? As several of the other panelists have mentioned, many of these people are very new to RV, and therefore we should expect that they will have very unrealistic expectations as far as how their vehicle performs and what service follows afterwards. Here we are in a time where it's hard to find good people, and we have this tremendous growth in our consumer base, and that will be, I feel, at least my fear, is that will be our greatest challenge, is satisfying those customers and meeting their service and performance expectations. I don't have any answers. Any of you, give me some, please.
Deb, I couldn't agree more. I think that where the industry needs the best quality, we're having the greatest challenges, right? And for us, I can't remember when our service departments have been as stressed as they are now. No one's gone ahead and mentioned parts, challenges. The parts that are being produced are being sent to the assembly lines, all right, whereas our parts departments are having difficulty obtaining parts in order to go and satisfy consumer demand. So when you see the variety of issues that the surge in business has created, much of it is service related. And as an industry, we're going to have to go ahead and respond very diligently in an effort to go ahead and satisfy not only the first-time buyers, but even our more seasoned buyers. So we just can't go ahead and say or identify that, well, we're selling more and that's good, but it's going to last. If it's only going to last if we can keep people within the lifestyle. So I think that we're going to have to respond, and we're going to have to continue to go ahead and focus on what we know is going to go ahead and keep the RV lifestyle moving forward.
John, Ron?
Yeah, no, I agree with Deb and Jeff. It's a tremendous opportunity and challenge to have all these new customers coming in. So certainly the manufacturers, to the extent that they can err on the side of quality versus jamming product out, and I know they're dealing with a lot of challenges, but the product quality is important. But from a dealer standpoint, and we're investing a ton in service and parts. That's been a focus since we jumped into the industry. But putting more resources into taking care of the customer in every way possible after sale is what we're focused on, and what the industry needs to do if we're going to take advantage of this tremendous opportunity we have ahead of ourselves. So that's really the key focus.
Ron, Mike?
I agree
and we'll be
100%.
done. Go ahead.
I've spent quite a bit of time talking about the supply chain and taking care of these folks and making sure they have a good experience, and taking care of them after the sale is just that is the most critical piece. And it's been the biggest piece. Let's just be truthful as dealers. It's been the hardest piece for us to do for years as business increases. But we definitely have to fix that problem as best we can, take care of those. I'm like Deb. I don't know the answer. I know we're working at it as hard as we can. And part of it goes back to the supply chain. We've got units, just like everybody that's on this call, we have units sitting on our lot that have been waiting for an air conditioner for 2 months. And the customer does not understand why you can't get an air conditioner for their unit. They don't understand that. They think you're lying to them. That's what concerns me. We've got a great opportunity for the growth in our industry and for it to be another great year. I don't want to stub my toe as an industry. When I say that, I don't mean Camberland of Oklahoma. I want us to stub our toe and ruin a great opportunity to grow this business and have more people stay in it. I think of the KOA survey that they did showing that about 20% of the people will remain in the industry. It could be as high as 30 or 40 if we do the right things. Well, I want it to be 30 or 40. I want it to be 50% of them want to stay in. And then we're going to get those sales where they're constantly over the 500,000 mark every year. And that'll make everybody happy. So, fixing the service problem, that is definitely a monumental thing we've all got to focus on.
Mike, would you care to speak to that?
Yeah, I agree. We've talked about RECT over the last 4 or 5 years, and today it's really paramount that's what the whole industry is striving for. It's not just the dealers, it's not just the manufacturers, it's the suppliers, it's everybody. We all have a stake in it, and if we don't take care of these customers, they're going to buy one RV and they're going to be done, and they're going to go on to boating or back to Disneyland or some other things. If we take care of these customers, we're going to have customers for life. And I think it's paramount that we started 4 or 5 years ago with this, and everybody continues on the RECT bandwagon. Like I've said a number of times, it's a journey. It's not a destination. So we have made great strides over the last 4 or 5 years, but there's still a long way to go. And when we get to that point, there's customers who are going to expect even more. So we have to all continue to do
it. Rick, did you have anything to add? At that, I just want to thank you all. It's a pleasure seeing your faces, even if we're not in person. And hopefully we will be not too far down the road. And I would like to finish with a little apology. I'm thinking I said 4 former chairmen. Actually, Ron isn't a former chairman at this moment, right? Yet.
Not yet.
About to be.
I have my white badge already. They mailed it to me, so I took that as a hint that I was fired.
I have a question for Sherm.
Yep.
So behind you, is that a picture of Ronald Reagan?
One of his brother-in-law. No, no, actually, that's my grandfather. And I'm trying to position myself. I have so much political stuff, so I didn't want any of it to appear. And so anyway, at that, thank you very much, and we appreciate the heck out of it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Sherm.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Take care.